So, as you may have been able to hear in the audience, dear viewer, there's been the odd pating as Discord has gone off, and the clacking of Hugh's incredibly loud mechanical keyboard. That's because some Katao Shoujo memes have been thrown in the past.
Some? All of them.
Many memes have been thrown, as we're going to talk about today's centerpiece, which is Katao Shoujo. Katao Shoujo is a free visual novel. The original idea originated back in 2000 when an artist called Raid, who is a Japanese artist, posted some pictures of disabled girls in a sort of like cute sort of slice of life scenario. They disappeared and then they resurfaced 7 years later on the /b/ board of 4chan, fully colored this time and with some basic descriptions. At that point, for seemingly no reason, it was decided that they were going to make a visual novel based around these girls with disabilities, namely of the 5 main girls.
Picture?
Yes, it is. And of the 5 main girls, one of them is missing their arms, the other their legs, one is blind, one has got burns and severe social anxiety, and the other one is deaf and mute. It came out in 2012 under the banner of 4 Leaf Studios, referencing the 4chan origins of the game, and it was supported by a cast of about 20 people from across the globe, and it is the piece of media that is single-handedly most responsible for changing my life. Suffice it to say, I care a great deal about this game, this visual novel, whatever you want to call it. Let's open the floor. We've all played Katao Shoujo, correct?
We've not all played all of it, though. So.
That is fine.
I would like to start... Oh, sorry, Hugh.
A bit. I've played one route.
You've played one route. What was your route?
The deaf girls.
You've played Shizune's route. Alastair, as I recall, you've played Hanako and Lily's route.
I started Emmy's route, but I'm not that far in it.
Joe, could you remind me which routes you've played?
Emmy, Lily, and Shizune.
Emmy, Lily, and Shizune. Ben, you've played all of them.
I've played all of them.
And I have assuredly played all of them. As you were saying, Ben.
I just want to point out, for a start, that I think this project, whether it was a failure, whether it was fantastic, whether it was a piece of art, whether it was mediocre, no matter what came out of it, I think it is so brilliant and so beautiful that over a simple piece of art, set like 20-odd people from over the globe. Like, I know some were in like
Australia, somewhere in Australia,
somewhere in Canada. I know some were in Netherlands, this area, if not like Sweden or Denmark or something around there. I know there was one in, I think, the UK, and just all over the world collaborating over a period of time to just create something from this one piece of art they saw, and they made something from it. And from that, they all put in the effort to code, write, do the artwork, do everything, and build something out of just this basic piece of inspiration that captured so many people over, especially a board that gets so much crap for its
horror,
and the shit that people go on for on it. But it just really shows that the amount of care and the amount of beauty and the amount of inspiration that people can actually hold and carry. Because just the fact that these people that didn't know each other came together to build something so special, and that turned out to be something so beautiful in the end. That's the icing on the top of the cake, because as I say, even if it had failed, the fact that they came together to make this, and in a visual novel format, something that at the time especially the West had never really taken or cracked or taken to in any proper way, it was ambitious, and it was totally a project of love, and you've got to appreciate and really dig down and have something for the people that went and did that. No matter how it turned out, those were people that did something they loved and they stuck through and did it to the end, and that's more than you can say about most people, and they deserve the utmost admiration, especially given how great it turned out. But even if it was, like I say, a steaming pile of crap, I still think they deserve the admiration for seeing it through and doing this project of love.
I did not know that until you just said that. And
yep.
Now I have a even though what I've played of it, I've enjoyed a lot, and I think it's very, very good. But that has given me another level of just admiration for this thing.
20 people over 5 years made this. I talk about this in a YouTube video that I made 6 years ago, based on this game. Game of the Year Scotsman edition.
It still shows up on my feed every now and again. That video.
Yeah, I'll say by far and away one of the worst things I've ever made. No, I'm kidding. There was heart and soul put into it. I go into detail about why it's a good game. It took 6 days working for 18 hours a day to make it, and it was entirely worth it. And so this is going to be a long conversation. I think we can accept here, gents. You play Hisao. He's a character who has got arrhythmia, which is a heart condition, and you're sent to Yamaku High School, which is a high school for the physically disabled. And this is kind of where it diverges, and this is step 1 of 900 of the brilliance of this game.
We're going to be here a while.
The 5 girls, 6 to be fair, but 2 of them come as a pair. One is Shizune's interpreter, Misha, who is a character in her own right.
Who was meant to have a root.
Yeah, but anyway. And depending on which girl you go for, Hisao almost... In every route, he struggles with his disability. And in every girl's route, you come to be a reflection of that girl. For example, Emmy is a runner, despite having no legs, and she's got bladed legs, and she takes Hisao and runs every morning. And Hisao's approach to life becomes, can you seize the day? You know, that is, you know, that is his redemption arc. Meanwhile, for someone like, say, if he gets with Lily, for example, his is, can you face yourself? You know, can you face your fears? Is more Haneko's as well. But it's different methods by which you can approach the fact that you're different, and the fact that you've got something that is a problem if you make it, and there's something you want to improve about yourself. And step 1 of this masterstroke is that this is 5 games which can appeal to 5 very different personality types, if not more. And the reason why it works so well is because I've talked to people who have cried tears over entirely different routes, but couldn't not stand others, but just got nothing from others. You know, 2 of the probably the 2 opposite ones really are Emmy, which is can you seize the day, and then there's Haneko's, which is can you face your fears. And I know someone who cried tears of joy and everything else over Emmy's route, whereas I didn't cry, but I got something out of it. Meanwhile, Haneko's route, we'll get to that at some point. I don't think I'm going to talk about that just yet, but we'll let the slow boil.
We'll let that stew.
Lewis, is it worth describing what each of the girls actually are, just as a thing?
Yeah, sure thing.
Because we're pulling their names quite a bit at this point.
That is a fair point. At this point, I'd request that Alastair perhaps pulls up a picture. Shizune's got a very commanding demeanor, and she can often come across as the antagonist, especially in Act 1. But as you quickly learn, she just wants to see everyone reach their full potential, and gets frustrated when she sees people squander their potential. Something which, over the course of the last half-decade, I've come more and more to appreciate. But her route is essentially, like, can you reach your potential? Even though you've been stymied, can you do the best that you can? Almost her exact opposite in terms of demeanor is Lily, who is...
Shizune is deaf, by the way.
She's deaf mute. For being honest, I'm not even really going to bother with the disabilities.
It's worth mentioning just because of certain things.
Yeah, to identify them, sure. So she... but why does she have glasses if she's deaf? I don't know. And
God damn it. God damn it.
Lily... Lily is serene, Lily is grace, Lily is prim and proper. She's got kindness for everyone and a pure sense of empathy. And all about it is facing yourself, admitting truth to yourself. Truth is a very strong theme in her route. And a lot of it is not trying to hide who you are. A lot of it is accepting who you are regardless of your faults. She is blind as far as the disability goes. Her counterpart is Hanako. Who
close friend.
Yeah, who's Lily's best friend, and she's
She's damaged in an incredible way. She suffered from burns at an early age, and this carries her characterization a fair bit and affects what has happened to her and her personality.
She is worried that everyone will abandon her. Essentially, she's got an abandonment complex, and she fears being the center of attention because people will leave. And hers is about, can you face your fears? Can you be better than you are? You're probably tangentially related in terms of the sort of emotional core is Rin, who is an armless artist, and she's got a peculiar way of seeing the world. She almost certainly has Asperger's or some kind of other mental sort of condition. Which
I believe they said she had autism. Yeah,
it's some kind of like she's prone to flights of fancy and discussion. And hers is definitely the most complex route as far as like unlocking sort of things go, and sort of cracking Rin. A while ago, I think I came to the conclusion. I think I know what Rin's route is about, in that I think that she ultimately is about seeing the world in a different perspective, and the fact that words sometimes cannot describe the feelings that you have, and you have to resort to other methods to do that. Be that painting, be it poetry, be it song, be it, it could even be letter or dance, and there's different ways of expressing yourself and describing this world.
I half agree and half disagree, which will be a point we'll bring up later.
We will, yeah. And she has got no arms. Her counterpart is Emmy, who is the fastest thing on no legs, and as I've said before, she is bouncy, she is bubbly, and everything about her is essentially about seizing the new day, almost not planning ahead, almost like not worrying about the future. And a lot of it is learning that commitment can be a good thing, even though you've got that sort of demeanor, and ultimately that striding ahead and seizing the day can sometimes be the best option. She's got no legs, as I say. And the final counterpart we were talking about is Misha, who, while she does not have any specific physical disability, is a outwardly bright and bubbly girl who is tackling severe depression and the fact that she is in love with someone who will never be in love with her for a fairly fundamental reason. Yeah. Those are the girls. Let's open the floor, in which case, because I'm talking too much and you guys are not talking enough. So, of the routes that you played, if you've played multiple or if you've only played the one, what did you like about them and which was your favourite?
I would like, if I can just interrupt, to start with Hugh.
Well, I've only played the one.
Yeah, but still...
Looks like we got your favourite then, bitch!
Out of this entire thing... You've had the least to say and stuff. This is the big moment and the thing we've alluded to, the thing you've posted the most jokes about. I would genuinely, out of all things, like to hear your opinions, because I feel this is the one thing that you said, as you said from the start, that you can actually talk about. So I think you get
in there.
Yeah, balls
You're
deep.
Powered up! Get in there!
I mean, I played Shizune's route, so I played the route of the girl who is deaf and mute. Now, I do not know why I chose to play Shizune's route, if I am all perfectly honest. I think subtle things within that first hour or two where you pick your route just made me go with this girl. I just kind of happened to like her. I was just like, yeah, this seems like the one that I went with. And I do like the game a lot. I thought, I've only played the one route, but the reason I've only played the one route is because the game was downloaded onto my old laptop. My old laptop went incredibly slow, and I was unable to start playing it. I had to continue playing it. And when I eventually got a new laptop, unfortunately, it had eluded me, and I forgot to go back to it. And I probably should have gone and played some more before this podcast, but I've been very busy, so I will apologise for that now. I believe that from the route that I actually played, from what I saw, it is very much a game about what are you, what defines you, and can you let things stand in your way? And if things do stand in your way, are they standing in your way because you personally are making them stand in your way? And I think that was a very interesting thing which I got from it, and the idea that actually there are a lot of characters in this who openly admit they have problems and will openly admit they know what their issues are. So I started playing Hanako's Route, but unfortunately I did never finish it. And there's a bit in Hanako's Route which she openly tells you that she's aware she has problems. She's aware that her life and herself is problematic, and she does not need you to tell her. And I think that was one of the bits that resonated a lot with me. The idea that actually, as a person, you are probably better suited to tell yourself your own problems than others are. And I feel that's one of the big things Katawa Shoujo does, that if you are not careful, you will get bad endings very quickly. You will get one simply through playing coy or through making one or two really, really bad mistakes. So I remember getting my first proper bad ending when I essentially just decided, you know what, I don't want to talk about my problems to these two girls. You can go away. And I told them, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And before I knew it, I was getting pushed off a roof. Which is, I don't know if you've mentioned, that is the bad ending. The bad ending always ends with you getting pushed off a roof.
The Kenji route.
The Kenji route.
I adore Kenji as a character. The fact that his route does end with him either accidentally or you tripping or whatever,
definitely
falling off a route, is absolutely fantastic, and I adore that as a route thing for him, because I think he's such a great character, if only for jokes and the complete contrast of everything else. But nonetheless, sorry, Hugh, didn't mean to detract from your voice.
This game is filled with like a shitload of side characters, and if you can't tell by the near reverential way that I in particular and others are referring to it, everyone's perfect, really. Like when we get down to it, like in every route, the support characters are just, they do their job perfectly. I'm blinded to this shit, obviously, because I am so biased. It's not even funny for reasons that we'll obviously talk about. But yeah, it's strong as fuck, and it's got those strong side characters. Did you enjoy the game overall, Hugh?
I did. I enjoyed the game a lot. I liked that it essentially tries to teach you that, number one, you should talk about your problems, and number two, if other people have problems, don't take it upon yourself to solve their problems for them. They need to solve their own problems.
Yes, they do.
And I think that's a really big point that I like, in the idea that actually human beings do not have their problems solved by other people, because at the end of the day, your problems are solved by you with the help of others. And I think that's the big thing I took away from the video game, from the visual novel.
Either or. You kind of grasped the cusp of the game there. It is helping yourself, and like, to piggyback on it, there are the romance options in the game. The objective is essentially romance. There are some friend endings, but they're not traditionally considered the good endings. And in almost all of those cases, if you try and treat your girlfriend like a therapist, you lose the game. Pure and simple.
And that's the thing, isn't it? This is why the game works, because it treats people like human beings.
Yeah.
But people don't want to be sandbags. People don't want to be your sandbag. People don't want you to be their sandbag.
Yeah, the reason
every single girl knows their problem, and they don't need you to tell them.
The reason I quite specifically even omitted mentioning initially the disabilities of the girls is because they're not anyone special. I think is one of the things which really hits home about this game, in the sense of they are the girl next door, they are the drama queen, they are a person you've met at the coffee shop, they are a friend you probably know. There is nothing extra dimensional, there is nothing... obviously they're beautiful, but that leads to the obvious conclusion that everyone has got that capacity for beauty.
And disabilities don't define them.
Critically, yeah. And the disability is one adjective among many that these people have, and it's only a problem if you make it, is a consistent thing.
I think a key thing in the sorry, Lewis. Sorry.
No. Listen, this is still a podcast. This is not the Lewis Gushes Power Hour. This is still a podcast.
I think the key thing that one of the things that still gets me is that the disability is not what defines you, and this game shows that in every way, shape, or form at every chance it gets, and it proves that through the main character. It proves that through all the other characters. And it shows that in a way that not other, like a lot of things would have just gone, oh yeah, having no legs doesn't define you. You can do what you want to do. But no, it does it. It does the mental thing. It does it for the same thing as other people, and it does it for straight anyone that just has a mental issue, that is going through depression or some form of mental issue, and says, this is not what has to define you.
Interestingly, actually, like briefly linking this back to anime, of all things to lose me, because Guilty Crown was a piece of shit. The moment that it lost me was episode 13, when the girl in the wheelchair had been established to be, bound to a wheelchair, and she was a mech pilot because it allowed her to get out and about, and she felt normal again. But it was established that that's not a healthy way of dealing with it, and she so nearly had a character arc, and then she randomly gained the ability to fly, and it completely killed her character, and I never watched it again. That was what killed Guilty Crown for me.
Man, Lewis, what are you talking about? Did you never play the route where Emmy flies?
Kawaii. Nah, I'm afraid the only one of that is when she gets into an isekai show for herself. Bam! Alternatively, when she got hit by the car and lost her legs. Also bam!
Yeah, she goes into a world populated entirely with lemons.
That's it. Scatman's world. Joe, what did you think of Katawa Shoujo?
My personal favourite route is Emmy's. Because, let's be honest, Lewis, I have trouble being proactive.
That is my response. Yes, he does.
Yes. So, being able to interact with a character that is just...
Seize the day!
Yeah, get up and do it. Just... And learning from that was really quite nice for me. I still have trouble with it. But... it was just... Yeah. Christ. Are you good at talking? Yeah, it's just... It brought a lot of things together for me, and one of the whole things about the entire game is, yeah, all these characters have lost something. It doesn't ever really stop them, but I stumble a hurdle and I will stop. So, and it was really nice to be able to watch anyone just be able to pick themselves up and carry on again. Well, because I had a bit of a string where after my sixth failed horribly and kind of didn't know what I was doing for a while. That was when I actually played it for first properly after Lewis going on for about how good it was for quite some time, with good reason. And yeah, it just kind of helped me get things back together, job, and here we are now. It was a really nice life thing for me.
It inspires.
I think I can say for certain that me, Lewis, and Joe, it really has. But mainly because I've never talked about it with Hugh or Alastair. And also Alastair only played it over the last weekend. So...
Yeah,
but...
well...
Now, this is more just like getting down to the soul of things, because... speaking of soul, while we're intermingling as well, let's not forget to mention the music, which is the soul of mankind dropped onto the heart of you. It is beauty. All of it. It was composed by Nicole Arfarmi, aka Sebastian Caff. And it was also published a little bit by Blue 123 in the Katawa Shoujo Enigmatic Box of Sound. And all of the sound in this game is just sheer beauty. It's again testament to the efforts you can do when you get the right person across the globe. Because Nicole Farmer really, they knew what they were doing, and just every tone is made more perfect by this music. My favorite piece of music ever is Lily's theme, Concord. holds a special place in my heart. And but among the other music, Wiosna, which means spring in Polish, is the opening main theme song, and it just makes you ponder when you're on that initial screen the potential. And just, I don't know, it sounds real fucking nice. Alastair, what did you think about fucking Misha? Did you think she was a lesbian? I didn't think she was a lesbian.
I haven't played that route, so I didn't know.
Idiot.
No, she's not a lesbian, you fucker. She's not even a lesbian, you fucker.
Also, Lewis, on your comment on the title theme, I genuinely... when I played this, I was in secondary school. Which is the equivalent of high school for anyone listening in America.
Whoa!
No one's listening in America. And so I would genuinely, while playing it, wake up. I made sure I woke up an hour every morning to get this in the morning. And I would spend the first 10 minutes just sat there listening to the title screen on it, just listening to the music.
Gentle piano roll. See, this is where you and I differ, Ben. Every time I've played Tower Shoujo, I've completed a route in one sitting.
Yeah,
I cannot put this fucking thing down. I was can't.
Physically unable to.
I was Phil sellotaped the computer to my hands.
Tower Shoujo was the first. It wasn't the first visual novel I played. It was the second or third.
It was my first.
It was the one I showed to my dad, and that he was like, "Fuck, that's a solid medium. Like a book that you can see these sort of animations and the characters moving on and off just adds so much extra to it." And my dad's an incredibly avid reader, and I was sat there and I was like, "Why is this not a bigger thing?"
Fucking Phil sat there smoking a massive blunt, just like shit.
So deep, man.
Whoa.
Yeah, my experience with it so far is, I've enjoyed it tremendously. As you're just going off because we have just been talking about music, as a person who played and did music throughout my entire childhood, like that is some really, really good background music soundtrack. There isn't one piece of music in that I dislike. There's nothing that I could even describe as mediocre. They're all very good pieces of soundtrack in their own way, and they all have their specific function of what they're trying to convey and the situation that they're trying to put you in. For me, music is a very important part of anything, whether it's an anime, whether it's a game, whether it's... Music is meant to...
Invoke feeling
and add... Not take over the scene that you're in, but add or elevate the scene, which is exactly what this music does.
It is the backdrop of the soul.
Yeah. As far as the routes and the characters that I've gone through, out of the two that I have done, I felt more with Lily's route. I can't exactly describe. I can't exactly describe why, but that's probably because I probably ashamed that the way I've played this game is the fact that we talked about this last week, that we're doing this podcast, and we're like, okay, we're doing Katao Shoujo, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to play this, and I've played it, these two routes rushed over the course of, a weekend to try and get them in, which is probably not the way you should play this.
Important question, did you use a guide?
No, I did not. I did not use a guide for this one. Even though you say that, because I did message you previously before this, and I said, I don't understand how people get bad endings, because the choices are... they're obvious, in my opinion.
You act like a human being sometimes.
But that's probably because when I look at the choices, I can't help but look at them as a game of like, I'm already just like, oh, it's obviously that one, because why would you pick the thing where you go, oh, I have the choice of spending more time with the girl I like or going to bed? Or the thing of like, do I tell the girl I like the truth or do I not say anything? Like,
yeah, but then again,
It's
the one that
obvious.
got me my bad ending was like telling someone one of the fundamental problems that I had, or saying, "Please don't ask me right now. We're in the middle of class."
Yeah,
And to be fair, that's not an obvious choice sometimes.
and that's just it. And sometimes, like the game is obviously not perfect, and like some of those choices are poorly televised or poorly timed.
Well, I dare say, Lewis, it's less that, and it's more. It each resonates specifically with a different person. There's a lot of routes that everyone will find easy, and there's a lot that people will find difficult, and the things are a lot more. Well, fuck, that was not an easy decision.
Well, the thing is, because as you've been going through the characters and what they're kind of like represent and stuff, the problem is when I looked at this game, I was like, my first initiative was, okay, I'm going to look at the characters. And I'm like, okay, out of all these characters, which one do I like the most? And I was like, I picked Lily, because I always like that character type. I've always been
tall, older, big-breasted, blonde.
Tall,
I was going to say,
older,
if I was going to put money on
yeah.
it would have been Lily.
Yeah, exactly. So that's naturally why I went and picked Lily. The reason I did Hanako's route is mainly because that's the route that I feel like, out of what people talked about, and especially Lewis and whatnot, it's like as the like, you know, best route, or what, not best, but you know, like the one.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to play Hanako's route so I can talk about it. The next one I started was Emmy's, because I'm interested to see the bubbly like character like that, because it was a very like different route to the ones that I just played. I'm interested in Rin's route because, as you said, she's an artistic person, and I'm an artistic person. Like I grew up playing music. I'm a very like artistic person, even though I don't really do that much now, but I used to. And I understand this concept of conveying emotion through art, which is why I will probably actually enjoy Rin's route quite a lot when I get around to it. Shizune's route is kind of like the one where, at the moment, it literally almost like she doesn't interest me at all. I will play her route, obviously, and I might change my mind when I actually learn about the character more and like actually get to understand her. But at the moment, she literally does not interest me whatsoever.
She's almost a trap character. Ha, funny joke. There already is one. In the sense of like,
it's in her route.
It's her cousin. And she's almost introduced, as I say, as a sort of antagonist character in the first act, because she's always trying to get you to do things when Hisao's like, no, fuck off, and like trying to deal with my disability, which is a fine position to have. But then like later on there, you can see when she was like, listen, do you want to know what sucks more than fucking going back, like, you know what sucks more than talking about your disability? Watching someone go back to their fucking room and just get sad about their disability. It's like, I want you to get out and do things and realize you're still yourself. And but she's almost a trap in that respect, which is perfectly fine. Which is like, it's the route. Well, Ben's decided he's going to go and have a wank, so consequently, I can't ask him what his favorite route was. I was going to say that's a shame. What do we think his favorite route was? I think his favorite route is Kenji's bad ending. Personally.
Definitely.
I actually don't know what Ben's favorite route would be.
Rin, I'm going to say Rin or Hisako.
No one is called that, I'm afraid.
Do you mean Hanako?
Hanako, no, that's why I got confused. Sorry.
That's all right, dude. That's
Rin
all right.
or Hanako, I'm going to say.
I've known, like, of the 5 girls, I have known a character archetype from all 5 or 6, depending on your perspective. Actually, Misha's the only kind of person I've yet to meet. Bafflingly, I think her personality most closely matches mine in a weird way. But anyway,
I think we're on for Ben.
Also, there we go.
I'll say now we'll definitely chat about it. Like, I'll say we can speculate on fucking Ben's waifu, which is a nice place to be in. But as far as where this fits into the grander sort of visual novel narrative,
I know who it is.
Anyway, we'll let Benny Boy reveal it.
It's Yuko, because she looks like Kate.
Sure enough. Ben doesn't love Kate. What are you talking about? No, it's just like so. As far as where this fits in the sort of overall visual novel structure, Katao Shoujo is almost sort of an exemplar of the sort of like Western visual novel archetype. Because whereas in sort of like Fate or something like that, you've got like 45 endings or whatever, and that's quite common across quite a few different sort of genres. In Katao Shoujo, the majority of endings are you've got one good ending, usually one neutral ending, which is where you usually end up as friends, or otherwise Hisau's in no worse position, or the bad end, where you have negatively affected either Hisao or the person's life.
Get off the roof.
Yeah, I was saying, get off the roof, Shinji. Now,
interesting enough, Lily doesn't actually have a bad ending.
No, she has just got a neutral ending, and for some characters such as Rin, the neutral ending is more heartbreaking than the bad one. It's all a matter of perspective, really. And it's a very archetypical Western sort of dominated visual novel, basically, and it demonstrates lots of choices, strong characters, small amount of endings, which for me is the sort of visual novel formula kind of distilled into its purest form, because whereas you get like Fate, which is definitely more of a game like visual novel rather than a book visual novel, if that makes sense, with Katao Shoujo you very much just got it distilled down to brass tacks. Ben is still jacking off, and he's jacking off onto his keyboard, so it's making like he's typing in chat now. But I was going to say, so...
Well, the thing that Katao Shoujo does is, which I find really, really interesting, is the way it does a mixture of different things of the way it works, is it does the thing of, like, the first act, which is how it describes it in the thing.
Yeah, the first act
is you're shared between all of them, and you're basically you're picking your route act.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The one thing I forgot to mention: there is common events that happen across all the routes, regardless of who you pick. For example, a letter arrives, sort of signifying your past life. Sorry, Alastair, continue.
Yeah. So the first act is essentially you're picking your route, and then once you're in your route, the next 3 acts are specific to that girl. But there are still choices. It's not like you're now locked into this is the epilogue for this girl. No, you're now in this girl's route, but you still make choices that affect the ending at that point of what ending you get in that route, which I think is an interesting combo of the way it does it.
But I think a big thing is the actual introduction means much more than the introduction in a lot of other things, because it really, when you look at it and you actually think about the choices you're making and you're going through and doing, it especially as me, who was going through and wasn't making choices based off of fuck, gotta get my waifu, or gotta run fast. I went through and just picked the choices that resonated with me, and that's the way that I wanted to go through and play it the first time through. And I think that sort of hit, and going through and feeling that tug, especially when you're sat there and you're like, I kind of want to get with this character, and then you end up on someone else's route. I think that still gives a pull and that sort of emotional entanglement, because you ended up on that route for a reason from the decisions you made. And then when you see it out to the end and you've got the full thing, the full payload, the full hit from that entire route, and you're just there and you're like, no, this was the right one and stuff for the decisions I made and thing. I think it very much plays entirely in that first bit where you're with no one has such more of an impact than you ever even notice when you're playing the game.
Interestingly enough, actually, jumping onto that, this is how little I knew about visual novels. My first route was not my favourites, nor was it the thing which changes everything. It was actually Emmy was my first route, because hers is fairly easy to get onto, because I made the option to push myself when running. Yeah, so I made the option to push myself when running, and I was in Act 3 of Emmy's route before I thought to myself, I wonder when I get to go back to that other chick, the one with the, the other one who I was hoping to get to. I actually looked up, and it was something that I realised, oh, this is how visual novels work. Like, that's how little I actually knew about it at the time. I actually ended up entirely accidentally on someone else's route, which is very strange looking back on it now. As far as to be fair, before I move on, that's actually a fair point. I got distracted due to Ben going away and jizzing everywhere. Ben, who is your favourite route, and perchance could you describe why?
I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking about this because I'm not going to lie, I did the bad thing, Lewis, in the recent few days. When we were talking, and you were like, don't go through with your raw thing from before.
No,
well,
either
you know there's one route in particular that rubs me up the wrong way.
I'm aware.
Well, I replayed it.
Go on, share your experiences. Elucidate the audience.
Well, suffice it to say, it hit much harder, given much more thinking and years after, and different opinions since I've grown from then. And some of the stuff that went on made that such a more heavy-hitting route than I was expecting when going in. And so that route holds much more of a special place after the replay, which I dare say was worth doing so, because going in initially, although my arguments might have been justified for me back then, I didn't have a lot of context for things, and I was very caught up based on that was the last route I played. And I'll get onto that more later when we actually discuss it specifically. But as for your question, there are 3 routes that really resonated, but there's one that only hit hard. Like, Lily's, Hanako's, and Emmy's were the 3 that really properly, at the time, were the ones that hit me. And most specifically was Emmy's.
Well, I was wrong then.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone gets completely wrong bet for you.
Oh, what did everyone guess?
They all thought it was real. I kept stum because I knew what it was.
Well, I kind of thought it might be Hanako, but...
So, Emmy's route I ended up by accident. I was aiming for Hanako's route.
Well, yeah, Emmy's is really easy to actually like.
And I ended up on it because I, like Lewis, chose to push myself. Because why wouldn't you? And the route gave, at the time, especially with things I was thinking and going on with and dealing with at the time, it revitalized and brought a lot of emotions to the head. At that point, my dad was going through heart surgery, and so the relation with Emmy's dad throughout the whole thing really resonated specifically, and I was really struggling with something that meant a lot to me in my life at the time, which was my boxing, which was a very physical thing, and Emmy's is all about running, and so it was very easily to relate between the two and the things going on between them. And so it just very hit home and resonated with that. And also, I think the epitome of it was not even any of that, not even the moments that personally hit me hard. It was seeing one, and it's one thing that I will bring up later in further detail, but one that still gets me. It's the only route that Hisao stands the best chance of
not dying for 30
longer and better life. But on top of that,
Hisao does utterly neglect his health in the runes. We'll chat about that, but yeah, he utterly neglects his health.
Well, I slightly beg to differ on one of the routes, but
on one of them, yeah.
We'll get to it later, like I say. But on the other thing is, Emmy is this character that is almost. She's almost a whirlpool of positivity, because she has this positive go-get attitude. She has this, yeah, I've got everything going on, yeah, I'll push forwards, yeah, I'll go through this, and yeah, you can do it. And you get sucked into that, and you get dragged into her atmosphere to the point that I started doing extra exercise at the time and doing running and stuff like that under the guise of that's what she did, and she did it despite all the stuff going on. I can do it here to improve myself and improve what's going on with me. And it going through and seeing that positive personality, and then seeing it break and shatter, and see the human behind it, and everything that goes on, and especially the moment at the grave, where you get the full scene and the full explanation and everything that goes on there, and just listening and watching it and resonating with my own personal circumstance, combined with seeing this person that at the time was such a positive, happy person, which was always what I portrayed despite everything, and seeing that they were able to show themselves vulnerable, but at the same time I had almost, without knowing, mentally anchored myself to them as some sort of rock for myself and what was going on with all the shit that was happening, and seeing them break down and accept what's happening and accept talking to other people really just hit like a fucking freight train of,
that is fair.
It's okay to be vulnerable. Even when you're the happy person, even when you're the one that's inspiring so many other people, because let's be honest, she's the reason Hisao stands a chance of living longer in that route. And
we can
everything
scientifically check this by seeing him in the other routes.
Yes, and all the other shit, and you see that, and she's the reason, she's all of the thing behind it, and there is not a single reason and a single problem why she can't be vulnerable and she can't be herself. And seeing that and seeing someone actually stand out and go against all the things, all the shit she's gone through and that she's suffering, and be able to actually talk to someone about it and stand through, that meant the world to me.
That is fair.
That is very fair.
Can you stand up for yourself? Can you face your fears? I'd like to involve other people in the chat now, because obviously this is going to be us talking a fair bit. So I'm going to go for the gut here. By all means, think about it for a moment. I'll give you one of those.
Go for the liver blow.
I'll go for the liver blow. I'll go for that side liver blow. I've been watching some Hajime no Ippo, and that looks like some tough shit. If you had to point to a single bit of media that you'd say has had the most positive influence on your life, obvious leading question for me. Ben's just alluded to that, so we'll jump off of that. Which bit of media do you think has had the most positive impact on your life? For whatever reason, either because it made you have a change in perspective, because you did something differently, because you realized that there was more to something, or what have you. Joe, we'll begin with you.
Why me?
Because I decided. We picked on Hugh last time. Unless there else.
No, it's fine. I actually already.
Oh, there we go. I got some faith in you.
No, well, I've very much already stated my reason, because vision is visuals, because they are pretty much the only thing that made me take a look at myself and change. For me, every other kind of media, looking at someone else's stuff. I've played games, I read books and stuff to see someone else's ideas. I don't ever try. I very often don't try and get my own interpretation of a lot of them, almost, just because I like to see what other people thought up and experience that firsthand. I don't have a whole lot to say on it, but
sorry. So is Katawa Shoujo like the example of the media that had the most impact? Would you say then?
Yeah,
so, yes, yeah. So visual novels is the media, and Katawa Shoujo is the media. Alastair, what would you say, my boy? My sweet boy.
This is when I'm trying to like work out what the. Because the thing is, there is something in my life that has affected me to the better in a ridiculous way, to the exceedingly huge levels, but it's not a piece of media.
That's fine.
And the thing that I've always said is the one of the things that's like kept me going through childhood, and was like, I'm making it sound worse than it like actually is, but it was the one thing that every single year I look forward to this. It was a thing that means so much to me in ridiculous levels, to the point I do not want to ever give this up, and that's skiing. Because skiing for me, it's my time of year where I get to go out and experience a thing that I love ridiculously, to the point of, it's weird because this is an anime podcast and whatnot, so I don't really want to go into the depths of skiing in this, but I feel things when I'm skiing that you feel like you're free, you're connecting with the world, you're connecting with yourself, you're letting yourself just go and just, whoosh down a mountain and just have fun and just play, and nothing else matters, and it's just you being one with the slope. I mean, that was the thing for me that like has always been the most game-changing, important thing of my life, is skiing. So when I try and think of a piece of media that I could think of equivalent to that, I can't find one, because there just isn't one that has reached that level. So I can't think of a piece of media, but that is the main thing that has affected me.
I got you, fam. Ski Sunday.
It's not the same.
Changed your life forever.
You gotta admit, it's got the best opening of any.
It's got the best theme song of any sports show, like disproportionately good fucking theme song. Like whoever fucking like toured that one out, presumably went on LSD, knew what the fuck they were doing. So Huey boy, do you have a particular piece of media, and why is it not Magical Girl Site?
I haven't found it yet.
Because it's Sengoku rants.
It's because he doesn't want to admit it. It's High School DxD and he doesn't want to admit it.
It's Kenpachi Ramasama.
Oh, why are you so flippant?
Yeah, no, that's a good answer, Hugh.
No, in all genuality, which is a new word I just made up.
You're allowed to do so.
If Shakespeare can do it, why can't I? Because Shakespeare the genius, and I'm me. Anyway, there we go.
Shakespeare's dead, you're not. What?
I haven't found it yet. I think fundamentally I'm a bit of a broken human being. Well, I don't think a bit. I think I fundamentally am.
Everybody is to some extent.
Oh, I'm very broken, and I'm not going to get into that right now.
It's because he likes
I have not found the thing that has turned my life around yet. There are things in my life that make me happy, and there are things in my life that make me think back to nice times and back to people and moments. However, there is not a piece of media yet that has made me look at myself and change myself for the better. There's things that I will watch. So, for instance, Non-Buri, when I am properly down, I will put that on and it will make me feel happier. But there is not a piece of media nor something that I've done in my life that has yet made me go, now it's time to change. And I haven't had the Katawa Shoujo that you had, unfortunately.
It's alright.
I will have it eventually. I just haven't had it yet.
We'll find it for you. It'll be Flip Flappers.
Oh, no,
you didn't play Doki Doki.
Yeah. For those of you who are wondering, bought Flip Flappers during the last podcast, and it came, and it's good.
It'll be My Sister Is My Writer, which is only tangentially related because I also came.
I think I actually, now thinking about it, I've actually worked out a piece of media that I think probably wasn't the only thing, but it helped to trigger a realization in my head. This is going to be a random tangent of an anime, but Amagi Brilliant Park is
I have no idea what that is.
I love that show.
I know of it.
I love the show. I watched it for... it's one of the... Genuinely, I think it might actually be the last seasonal show I genuinely watched episode when it came out every week.
It's the only anime I have so far seen in existence where the plot massively evolves around a theme park. And basically...
Dead Man Wonderland.
That's like one episode.
Oh, you motherfucker.
It is one of the things that actually made me realise that I actually want a job in the theme park industry. I actually want to work in that industry. I want to do that. And it's one of the things that made me realise that.
That's nice.
Quick physics joke. You only care about jerking it. I'll explain that joke later on.
I get it.
Sweet physics joke that flew about as well as the Challenger.
Oh, God.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the lowest.
And now, should we go back to Katawa Shoujo?
And that's the lowest we'll ever get. Now, I'm just trying to bring some...
I think we've still got more people to go through, like Lewis.
Listen, I'll try to bring a bit of levity to this while I distract everyone from the obvious thing that I've not said.
Oh, do you want yourself to end?
I do want myself to end.
Alright.
I should probably talk now, shouldn't I?
Probably.
So we're skipping mine and going to yours, alright?
Yeah, but we know what yours is. You just admitted it. It was fucking, boxing.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, there was another one, but I didn't.
Megalobox.
No, there wasn't. Yeah, Megalobox. No, you go right the fuck ahead, mate. You go right the fuck ahead.
No, it's fine. We can go for you.
No. I want to be polite.
Right, so there are three big moments that have defined my life. And suffice to say, one is my dad going through health shit. One is someone that I deeply care about dying. And the other one I'm not going into at the moment. But essentially, I went through a lot of shit, and Katawa Shoujo with that route did a lot of stuff for me, like you said, and like I said before, with the Eri route and resonating with stuff that mattered to me quite a lot, especially the boxing, which was something I cared about so deeply. But there's another one, and it's not to pull shit that the audience won't know, but genuinely the only other thing that's really hit me as hard and inspired me to do shit and go about the same sort of way is, and I'm sorry for bringing this up, Lewis, but genuinely Contractor.
Dab.
Oh,
it's the thing I made.
But yeah, it just
It's a trick.
A lot of shit hit at a point. Happened. A lot of shit happened.
Listen,
a lot
if
of
you're
shit happened, and it was there and gave me a chance to see a lot of things, and also allowed me to see a lot of things in a different light, and realised a lot of stuff that really mattered to me. And I think deciding that and sticking with it is something quite important. And those two moments are the two of... They're very similar, but they're different in their... I can't word it. There's no way of properly wording it. And I think that's the way that these sort of things should be, almost. Because it's just something that means so much that you can't really explain it as to how it's done something, but it resonated so deeply. But that's just me. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted.
You're sorry that you interrupted to say that something I made change your life. Fuck you. Fuck you, bud. Who do you think you are? Fucking,
exactly, you're right. I'm just going now, Lewis.
get back into that contractor mood by putting on rainbows and puddles and putting that fucking bass to 11.
Just
The ultimate meme. The ultimate
turn it
meme.
up to 11.
Turn it all up to 11. Nah, it's alright, it's alright. I'm glad that I've made a good thing. This game obviously inspired me a fair bit with that, so you know. So we're tangentially still on the podcast. It's all fucking good. It's all fucking... Right, I should probably talk now.
Probably.
I'm staring. Do it now. Alright, so... I saw the mic. I saw the mic. Like, Jesus, calm the fuck down, Hugh.
I'm sorry.
That's alright. It's alright. I just saw the light up on Discord as I got out as I talked. So I was in 2012, and around about the age of 14, I realized Lewis didn't like Lewis very much. And he began to fix himself and did a good job until he was 16. There was just a few little fucking niggles. Little things that just couldn't quite be fixed. Little did I know, when I was browsing my usual escapist magazine, that when I saw an article written on the Escapist magazine, which I still have on my bookmarks bar to this day, which talked about a dating sim, and looked really fucking good. And I bookmarked it, and I said I'll get round to that. And it was a few months later, because physics exams and maths exams got in the way, and I sat down and I played it. What I mentioned earlier about the fact that Hisao is different in every route, and it he sort of becomes a part of you almost. He becomes an extension of the reader. Which is what it's designed to do. That's what the game's designed to do. You're supposed to pick the person you like, you become more like them, and that reflects your personality, so I get so close to them. My favorite girl in the game, in the fiction, in all of fiction, is my girl soul, Hanako. And I say that because, to an extent, she is me, I'm her, and in so many ways, oh so many ways, she's got anxiety. She's worried that everyone will leave. She almost wants everyone to leave. And her route is all about the dangers of white knighting and about how putting yourself out there is great right up until you get yourself hurt. And you need to think about yourself in order to become a better person to help people more. Now, that's a lesson I'm still taking on to this day. I still help too much, usually. This is like the worst job interview ever. But one night, when I was 16, my poor babby 16-year-old Lewis, and I played the final scene of Hanako's Route, and Innocence played, and it all, the fundamental truth when it just gets sort of spelled out to you. It was therapy. It was therapy for 16 years of a fucked up childhood that shouldn't have happened. Really. I didn't deserve it. And 16 years of knots got not quite untied, but got loosened, and I was made aware they were there. And I don't cry at shit. I don't. I stopped crying to hit the space bar, then it started up again. That was me for about half an hour, and I played it all, and it blasted through me like a fucking hurricane. And it goes Innocence, then Comfort, as the songs, and then you leave on the most beautiful scene of a kiss. And that moment's frozen in time, and the people in Yamaku Academy, which is the school, never age because they're in a video game. But that moment was so frozen in time, and it made me consider, what was I, and how much of this was real? Because we talked about the walkthrough a while ago, and at one point I glanced at a walkthrough when I was actually looking at an entirely different route, and I spotted the Hanako good ending and what you had to do. And for years afterward, to this day almost, I debate whether I made that decision because it was air quotes the good one, or because that was the decision that I thought was right. I'm still stuck on that to this day. It doesn't matter ultimately because I would have reloaded and got it anyway. But it made me realize that fictional choices matter as much as real ones if you give them emotional weight. And Hanako, means more to me as a fictional character than many real people do, really. Majority of the planet, really, statistically, when you think about it. You give me an average, Chinese, Indian, American, whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. Hanako does, though. And some of that is the art and the music and the pixels and everything else, but critically I've built that character in my head. And episode 25 and 26 of Evangelion go into this, where they talk about how the version of the character that is you, that exists in other people's minds, is just as valid as the character of you. Which is such a... It's presented in the philosophical poetry that only Hideaki Anno can really do. But it made me wonder the same thing. What is the nature of a fictional character? If you give them weight and emotion in your mind, more people have been moved by that character than, they could have done in real life. Does that make them any less valid as a person, almost? The conclusion I came to is that it doesn't, and that fictional characters mean something. And I create things, and for the most part, I loathe most of the things I make. And I make them with heart and soul, with the idea that they are real, with the idea that they could exist in other people's minds. And that's the idea. And that the version of the character in your mind is just as valid as the one in mine. And for that, they need to be real. They need to think, live, eat, breathe, have heart. But also be the every person you've always known and always met. And Hanako convinced me of that. And to an extent, Hisao in that route as well, because he went through that same butterfly metamorphosis, as it were. And it's when you realize that, fiction is not some dalliance. Fiction is not just stories and cave paintings and dancing around the fire. When people say that an art form is invalid, they are invalidating the heart, almost. Because that art is as real in other people's minds as it is real in yours, if you gave it the chance. It's why art can exist in any eye of any beholder, and the reason why anime is worth something, and it's why music and books are worth something, because it doesn't matter almost how you feel about it, it matters how others feel about it, how much you can grasp that fiction. And this took many years for me to chew through, and I certainly fucking wasn't fixed overnight. Jesus, anyone knows me these days knows I'm far from a fixed individual. But it made me think inward and really stared into the abyss in a way that I would not do for perhaps another 5 or 6 years, I'd say. And yeah, and that's how fundamental this little fucking visual novel, this interactive book was because it made me fundamentally reassess how I look at fiction and what is the nature of a fictional character, because they're real in your mind, and if it's real in your mind, it's just as valid as reality in some ways, to you anyway. So that's why it meant a lot to me, and why it still does to this day, and why I still feel emotional talking about it, and why it's so heavy on the heart, because you almost have a responsibility as a creator to make sure your creations are loved.
Yeah.
And it inspired me to create, and that's why I made a 10-minute YouTube video. Check it out now, link in the description. Get it while the bandwidth's hot.
It's a fucking great video.
6-year-old video, 6-year-old Lewis trying to elucidate and explain all of this.
Wow!
And make sure you watch it right to the end.
Make sure you watch it right. Make sure you watch it right to the end, where I question if anything I make is good. Was it good indeed? Yeah, and it inspired me to create, and I made my first YouTube video, and then shortly after that, I considered writing games, and then I wrote poetry, and then I began to write a tabletop role-playing game called Contractor, and then I write other things, and then I tried to draw, and that failed, and now I create things for other people to understand, and I inspire people, and I make Ben feel things, and Joe would never admit it, but I know he felt things too.
I admit I feel things. I just don't understand them.
Like the fluent going down his throat.
Oh, sweet, sweet estrogen. And I make things, and those things inspire others and cause them to feel. And the tabletop role-playing game characters that others make are just as real in their minds as perhaps, they are to, me, to an extent, when you put on the skin of that character, are you not walking in their footsteps? Are you a parasite, or are you them? What is that immersion? And those are the questions you got to ask, and that's the realization this game gave me, among other things, such as don't white knight people, and you can't be a therapist to your girlfriend. Took me 2 attempts to solidify that lesson, but it's there.
Yeah.
2 good fucking goes.
We know, Lewis, that practice makes perfect.
Practice does indeed make perfect. Thank you for listening to my emotions, viewers. David Cage now thinks I'm a person because I felt an emotion.
Oh, I'll make you a robot in my next
It is one emotion.
No, I mean, that's the thing.
I think
artwork does make... Any form of art makes people feel emotion. Maybe
that's
the same...
the point of art.
Maybe one piece of artwork doesn't make everybody feel emotion, or even the same emotion, but artwork will make somebody feel something, no matter what it is, whether it's a painting, whether it's a piece of music, whether it's a visual novel. They all make somebody out there feel something.
The point of art is to elicit emotion, and no matter what that emotion is, if someone feels something, that's the job done.
Yeah, which throughout that whole thing, it reminds me of something that happened to me, I think when I was 16. It was one of my piano exams, and this is, to this day, is the best piece of artwork that I've ever produced, in the sense of that's ever come out of my fingers or whatever. That year was a very difficult year for many different reasons, mainly for my piano teacher. That was the year her husband died, but she soldiered on the way she only knew how, and still kept teaching us and for exams even. And that year, for one of the big exams that I was doing, I was playing her favourite piece of music. During that exam, there were, apart from me, I think there were 5 other people in that exam room. 3 were the examiners, 1 was my dad, and the other 1 was my piano teacher. That was the best I ever played that piece of music, and I think that's the best I've ever played any piece of music ever. And
you knew, your hands knew.
And well, it wasn't just that. It's that my dad told me that I did it really well. But that's my dad. But the thing that meant more, I didn't care what I got in the exam or what. It was the fact that my piano teacher after the exam came up to me smiling and just basically said thank you, because that was kind of like the thing she needed that year.
And that That was real.
And it was the fact that, like, that just reminded me of that, the fact that, like, oh yeah, no, if there was one person in that room that I gave that piece of artwork to, I mean, I didn't write the piece of music, but I played it, that was basically for her at that point. And it's like, artwork is always there to make
someone feel
emotion. Anyway, that's my emotional story. That was a complete tangent, but I felt that fit in there.
Oh, man.
It did indeed. Hate, hesitate, loathe all you create, but eventually you'll make something good. I think we've done visual novels with that, in the sense that I'm certainly spent. If anyone else has got a point that they'd like to make or a story they'd like to share, by all means do so. If not, then I think we can cap off the evening with such wonderful stories.
I have much more to say about Katawa Shoujo, but I don't think now's the time.
That's alright.
I mean,
we'll talk about it.
I have other points,
anyway.
but we can always cap that off there.
Well, we can always cap it off another. We can always do it another time, but I feel that's the emotional core, and it can come up in the future if that works for everyone. Does that work for everyone?
Works for me.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm sure visual novels will come up again, considering there's so many of them.
In which case, viewer, thank you for watching your eyeballs and listening with your earballs.
Oh,
Go watch something happy now.
They gave up about an hour ago the second we got into anything depressing or emotional. They were like, oh shit, emotions, I don't watch my anime for this. Fuck me, back to One Piece, where I can...
So, next week, the comedy podcast.
Next year, the comedy podcast, where we discuss the subjective differences between comedy and why your opinion on Generabuchi is still wrong.
See, I was going to make a check.
Says Lewis forever.
It says Lewis forever. On that
Next
note,
week, Hugh says more than 50 words.
I said more than 50 words. At least, I said at least 60.
it's fine. We'll
You're right, Hugh.
tell you what, Hugh. Would it make you feel
70?
Hugh, would it make you feel better if we ended the podcast on one of the most emotional pieces of music I think we could all agree there is?
Copyright.
Scatman's World.
Scatman's World. You know, it's Scatman's World. You know what?
Scatman's World.
Nah, I'm kidding. It's this.